Mr. Brock, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
So let's recap for Canadians some of the important details of this scandal. We have former Minister of Public Safety Mendicino, who is on record saying he wanted someone's head on a platter in terms of who chose GC Strategies. We have Min Doan, a former senior executive at CBSA, who deleted 4 years' worth of emails 3 days after an ATIP requesting information on GC Strategies was received by the CBSA. We have the highest level at both CBSA and PSPC involved in what was supposed to be an independent investigation. We've had senior officials appointed by our very own Prime Minister come to these committees and mislead, if not outright lie to committee. We have all the hallmarks of a cover-up and scapegoating going on in front of us. And I say that because I'm mindful of Ms. Hogan's, the Auditor General's comments that there are multiple layers of responsibility here. But I guess I can ask anyone at PSPC here, has anyone been suspended or fired in relation to the mishandling of the ArriveCan scandal? Yes or no?
We can only speak to the PSPC department,
Yes.
and nobody has been fired.
Didn't surprise me at all. So what we have is we have two individuals, two mid-level to lower individuals at CBSA, Cameron McDonald, Antonio Utano, who have been scapegoated by the CBSA into accepting responsibility for the multiple problems exposed by this at least $60 million scandal, according to the Auditor General. It could be substantially more, but because of the abysmal paperwork at the CBSA and PSPC, she could only offer a guesstimate. So those two individuals had been suspended, at one point suspended without pay. No one else has been suspended, no one else has been terminated, no one else has been outright fired for their incompetence in handling this particular scandal. Now I want to spend some time on Min Doan. Ms. Hogan, were you made aware prior to the release of the ArriveCan report that there was 4 years of missing emails from a senior CBSA executive, Min Doan, prior to publishing that report?
So yes, my audit team was made aware of the fact that there were emails that were no longer recoverable, and I think there are many reasons why emails aren't available. My fundamental view is that a contracting file should be complete, and a public servant should ensure that everything that needs to be maintained is in the contracting file, not in transitory documents.
And
like
if I could
emails.
stop you right there, Min Doan testified at committee. He lied several times at committee and claims, given his senior level and his experience with computers, that he had to change the battery on his laptop, and mysteriously, 4 years' worth of emails disappeared. And therefore, he was unable to confirm through documentary evidence that it was he and he alone that made the ultimate decision to hire the pariah GC Strategies, who fleeced the taxpayer to the tune of almost $60 million. Now, do you view, as the Auditor General, the act of deletion of emails to be a policy breach by the CBSA?
Yes, I think if emails are of value to government business, they should not be deleted. They should be, in fact, saved to demonstrate due diligence and accountability.
And would you view that, in the normal course of your duties as an Auditor General, as rising to the level of suspicion, which is your mandate, suspicion of criminality, warranting a referral to the RCMP to investigate Min Doan?
So I think this situation with ArriveCan was very unique. The RCMP was already investigating the branch at the CBSA and many of the actors, and that's why I did not make any referrals, but we have been cooperating with the RCMP and will continue to do so.
Okay. Have you cooperated to the extent of raising suspicion about 4 years' worth of emails being deleted by Mindone, someone whose specialty is computers and would have the responsibility, one of his mandates, to preserve that level of evidence. Have you made that referral to the RCMP, yes or no?
So out of respect for the ongoing investigation and the RCMP, I prefer not to comment on the conversations that we've been having with them about
Thank
ArriveCan.
you very much. That is your time. I understand we'll come back to you, Mr. Brock. Mr. McCauley, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thanks, Chair. Witnesses, welcome. Ms. Reza, one of your previous appearances, you noted GC Strategies had been given a suspension for 180 days. Has the 180 days is up, are they still suspended?
They are no longer eligible to do business with the Government of Canada. I think they're permanently removed.
So they've been permanently removed?
I'm just going to confirm this, so I don't... Vas-y.
Merci pour la question. From a contract security program, GC Strategies no longer hold a security clearance with the program. It means that they cannot access secure procurement on
Can you
our side.
access any other procurement?
I will turn to my colleague.
Thank you. They've been disqualified, so there was a breach of the Code of Conduct for Procurement, so they've been disqualified from all the supplier arrangements, so this usually apply across also all the departments. So,
How many companies similar to them have been suspended? Either through or lost security and therefore cannot bid, or lost access because of misconduct?
those that I'm aware, we have 3 companies. We have Dalian, Coradix, as well as GC Strategy. So those were the 3 that have been suspended. I would need to go back to the record in terms of providing you with an exact number and exact time frame. But since February, March, those were the 3 companies.
I would assume plus the companies involved with the ones that have been referred to the RCMP as well, have they not?
Perhaps I can take a crack at answering that. One of I wanted to distinguish that when it comes to overbilling and time theft, it is usually at the resource level. So the supplier, although through the code of conduct, they're held responsible.
So these are subcontractors that have
These
been
are
referred to the RCMP,
and the suppliers.
there are systems set up to ensure that these subcontractors are never
That's,
being used again.
so we're mapping out through, as I've indicated, this is a whole new set of, first is to find them, to refer them, to get restitution, and to put up, what is their requirement? They lose their security clearances. There's other elements to it, depending on whether it was an error, they're paying it back. So it's not a one-size-fits-all.
Thanks. And you did mention restitution. The comment to my colleague, Ms. Sinclair Deganay, was restitution agreements being negotiated. Why would we be negotiating restitution if they owe taxpayers money? Would it not be you overbilled us, pay us back, period?
So as a result of the time theft, we've reached out to the suppliers. They themselves don't know. We've given them a methodology for the money they owe.
Okay.
We've started.
Sorry, let me stop you there. When you say you reached out, sorry, gentlemen. You say you reached out to suppliers about time theft. So this is money stolen from taxpayers. And you're saying they don't know. Why are we at the point of even having such a discussion? If we've identified time theft, therefore money stolen from taxpayers, should we not be just stating to these suppliers, here is the bill, pay us back immediately?
Do you want to take?
Thank you so much for the question. In fact, it's exactly what we have done. So
Okay,
we
well,
wrote them a
Let me
letter.
just stop you there then. You said that you're negotiating restitution agreements.
So this is the settlement agreement that goes with the payment. So we told them, please pay us that money. They are paying back, but they are putting legal condition on the confidentiality of the agreement, the fact that they are not agreeing to their liability. I think there's a specific word. They are saying, this do not constitute an admission of a liability, but because we want to keep our relationship with you, we understand that it's our responsibility as part of the contract. So here's your money. It's the full amount of the money that have been overbilled.
How is the government, from subcontractors, how is the government finding time theft, but the main contractor is not?
So
Like, I understand what you're saying, that the company is saying, well, we're not liable and, we're not admitting guilt, but if the time theft happened, did it not happen through the contractor, therefore billing the taxpayer?
So maybe I have to explain a little bit more what those overbilling cases are about. So it's individual. So people that through multiple contracts with multiple departments are concurrently billing the same hour of work.
Right, which sounds like fraud.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and
okay,
that's
let
why
me just stop you.
Quick
If it's
question, Mr.
fraud,
McCauley.
why is this not going directly to the RCMP and the money being demanded back immediately instead of a negotiation?
So we should forget the word negotiation in that because they had paid back the entire amount. They're negotiating the terms of the settlement. These are two different concepts.
I'm stunned that
Thank you.
people are frauding us,
Thank
but we're
you.
giving them
Thank you
terms.
very much.
Madame Poulin, I think the collective jaws of all concerned taxpayers hit the floor in your response to my colleague, Mr. McCauley, about the Government of Canada working with fraudsters to pay back illegally, in my view, obtained taxpayer funds. So I'm going to do a deeper dive on this. How did you distinguish between working with potential fraudsters and those individuals that you referred directly to the RCMP? What was the metric by which you determined I'll work with them on a civil basis versus a criminal basis?
Merci beaucoup pour la question, Monsieur le Président. Donc, en fait, il est important de mentionner
It's important to mention that investigations were carried out on the people who were subcontractors. Fraud and other criminal elements are linked to those people's actions. No criminal action was discovered with the prime contracts.
You're not a criminal investigator. You have responded to Mr. McCauley that the individuals you are working with in terms of a repayment agreement, having them sign a document that absolves them of any liability, any criminality, any responsibility. In essence, they chose intentionally to double, triple, perhaps quadruple time for the work that they did, and the Government of Canada paid them for those services. That, by its very definition, Madame Poulin, is fraud. That's an intentional act to deprive the taxpayer of funds.
Mr. McCauley, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just want to get back to the issue I was chatting about before. Now, help me out here. How does PSPC discover that there's this time theft and the general contractor is not doing that? I would think, having done large projects with contractors, the contractor, the prime contractor, is responsible. So how is it that PSPC is finding this fraud and the contractors are not? And the follow-up is GC Strategies was the prime contractor, but we went after them for a time theft issue and suspended them, but we're not doing it to the other prime contractors who seem to be suffering through the same lack of principles. And just briefly get to it, please.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So it's important to note that each prime contractor hired the resource. So there's multiple prime contractors that have hired the same resource at the same time to work on different contracts. So each of them do not know that the other ones I have hired the same resource. So because we have access to information on those multiple contracts.
If multiple have hired the same person, if three of us have hired the same person for the same work, they're not getting the work. Like, how is the contractor not aware, hey, we've hired this person for 8 hours a day, we're not getting 8 hours of work out of them?
So maybe I could talk with, I think I grilled Madame Poulin on this when she first brought it to our attention. It's often these professional service contracts is on a as when needed basis. So they're not working, it's not necessarily transparent to the Crown or to the supplier. It's only through the invoice and the review of the work and the sign-off that then these issues come to light.
Department's not aware they're getting robbed.
Thank you for the question. So, of course, there's an increased diligence that will need to be applied when looking at the
Let
work
me
by the
stop you.
client.
Why now? Why are we just looking at this now? How is it with all the resources the government has? We have chief audit executives for every department who should be looking at risk assessments for large projects like this. How is it just now we're figuring this out?
What I can offer into that is that it's very hard because while there are a central repository for all contracts, there are no central repository for individual resources.
These groups across the whole breadth of government have been billing for services not provided, and every department is just cutting checks without verifying that this work has been done, that taxpayers have paid for. And if we did not have this ArriveScam issue come before us, we'd be sitting here right now unaware.
Just
And
on
I'm
that.
going to just finish up quickly. I have heard from CFOs who have approached me saying this is endemic through government, through big companies, large contracting companies, management consultants, where they are billing departments for the same work 3 times. Like CFOs have approached me. It seems to be widely known in the government that this is going on. Like, how is this possible?
Thank you for the question, Mr. President. It's what we are trying to do by doing those investigations. I find important to mention, however, that those investigations have started way before ArriveCan. So the first investigation that has been referred to the RCMP has started in 2021.
But if it's so widespread, even the procurement ombudsman is looking at it. But we've found 7 out of how many tens and tens of thousands of contracts? We even have a term for it, like the bait and switch that the procurement ombudsman is looking into, and yet
So we're conflating issues. Resource substitution is not time theft, right?
there is time theft going on.
And this is why we put the data analyticals. That's why we have done a total scrub. That's why we're working with every CFO in town. And that's why we also agree with what you're saying in the concept that if you're signing off on it, you need to have to make sure you're getting the goods. So there's an issue there, not just from the procurement lens, but throughout the project management and the FAA responsibilities.
It just seems throughout a whole government approach to being ripped off and poor oversight. It just seems like, and I'm expressing some frustration and also disbelief because there's a lot of parliamentarians, probably a lot of people watching have business background where they actually have to check that the work is being done that we've paid for, even if it has been, even if it's gone through a major contractor.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Colley.
Befuddled, I guess.
I'll allow a reply if you have a brief one. So no, I think.